Good morning, everyone. And on this positive note from Henrik, that we should move for the closer collaboration, I'd like to introduce you with the activities we have been doing now, prototyping the new ELS, which is European Location Service architecture, technical architecture. So a few words about ELS. This ELS has been recognized as a contribution by national mapping cadastral authorities to the easy implementation and use of Inspire. And by doing this exercise and setting up the European Location Service, we thought that, and we aim actually to bring Inspire compliant services and make them pan-European. This was the main idea, and actually EuroGeographics has adjusted own vision that ELS is actually the solution for us, how national mapping cadastral authorities would contribute to European society by data and services through the ELS. We started with a project called European Location Framework from 2013. And this was a big project, many partners, and we have been, first of all, making the semantic harmonization amongst Inspire services in such a way that develop the specifications, requirements for data providers, and try to bring the services in the pan-European flavor. So, and set up the structure, how and the prototype, how the services should be operational. Then after the end of the project in 2016, we have been carrying on with the transition program, and the project called Open ELS has been initiated in 2017. And we are currently in this project of Open ELS, and we're still operating on the same technical infrastructure and aiming to deliver the operational services for pan-European use. What is the current Open ELS and ELS infrastructure? It is the distributed infrastructure, technical infrastructure. Due to different reasons, it was decided that will be harvesting or connecting with the national services that are maintained and data stored in the national premises, in the national infrastructures. So where you see the member state services on the bottom here, these are the national Inspire services that are hosted by each of the data provider. And what centrally the ELS and Open ELS does is actually connects those web feature services to the cascaded service, and also harvest the web map service and making the centralized WMTS service like for our base map, and also maintain some common products. But actually currently there's only one product, geolocator, where we have we import data from mapping authorities to the central repository and then offer it to users through the application. Of course, we need to secure that data would be used legally, so by license, and the license has been set up, and as well we're doing the testing and monitoring of the performance of the all services that are running in the infrastructure. So this infrastructure seems to be okay, but we are struggling now again due to the variety of the implementations of the Inspire services in national mapping cadastral authorities, and we are very fragile today in our infrastructure due to the variety of those national infrastructures. So for us, as an example, when we have a user request and through the web feature service, user requesting certain data on the cross-border area, the request goes from top to this bottom on the member states, and the result is harvested and pop up on the screen back to user. If one of the point actually slows the process. It actually slows for all. So when we could have 10 perfect infrastructures offering very high performance services, but actually if one will not be operational well, then we kind of suffering from this weakness as a whole solution for the user will not be satisfied. So of course there are some advantages and disadvantages of this infrastructure. The advantage is of course that we don't need to invest a lot of resource on the central infrastructure, so that we can benefit from the national, and each data provider is kind of free to maintain our own service, and he's not dependent on others. Also, as soon as the data is updated, the updated content goes straight to the central infrastructure, and the user benefits from the currency of the data. However, disadvantage is the performance. As I said, for the low capacity data, it doesn't hurt so much like addresses or geographical names, but as soon as you go to the higher content on the data, so like hydrography or road network, then even the request might be bouncing as a timing for the request time limit has passed, and the user doesn't get the response time. Also, we have some issues with the web feature services that are set up by each of the data provider. So some of them, they do not support the paging functions, and or the max feature binding box is limited. And then the user gets the different limitation due to the different implementations. Also, we have been encouraging and set up in the procedures how the cross-border harmonization to be achieved by data providers. But of course, in this current technical infrastructure, the harmonization efforts could be done only by each of the data providers. There are no possibilities to make the centralized efforts on the offering, the common representation of the data through the centralized hub. And as regarding the cross-border harmonization, some of the mapping authorities have been more successful, like Nordic countries managed to agree about the connecting features and manage with the cross-border edge matching very successfully, while in the Central European part, this harmonization is still to be done. So then, as keeping this notion of the weakness of our current infrastructure and how to solve the issue for the users, we had a hackathon in September this year, where the experts from Norwegian Mapping Authority and the National Service of Finland and EuroGeographics took part, and it was a kind of short event with very tangible objectives, actually to make the test of this more centralized type of architecture. So, and specifically to operate not only with its services, as the feature services as we have now, but also to operate with the data. So, like GML files. The objective, as a technical objective, was to take the GML file and to transform them to the centralized PostGIS data storage and distribute this data through the OGC interface. So as a data that will be practically used there, so we'll use the address data of several countries, and I'll tell you a bit more about what have been achieved. So the data model has been based of UML, and the Sparx Enterprise Architect was used for this purpose. So in order to operate with the data, the experts try to review the content and reduce as much as possible constraints, and keep the still remain the inspired structure of the data, and but remove some voidable and optional elements and make some elements more mandatory. So the UML model has been defined there. The XML schema and DDL commands were being created by the tool called GIS by Architectum. Yeah, I'll not stop there. And also the experts have been exploiting Hale Studio as the open source tool for reading GML and converting it to the database model through by the web transform tool. Actually, the later on the modified data has been uploaded to the database using also Hale's the GDBC connection to the PostGIS database. So the whole schema mapping process was organized such that the data model has been created, and the database definition has been also established. So this process, as I said, has been handled by the open source tools. And then the OGC interface has been implemented using GeoServer that connects with the PostGIS database and shares data with the WFS standard, so including the WFS3. So what the result of this exercise was that actually we achieved the conceptual requirements for the architecture, that we have data models defined as a UML data models, and we keep Inspire structure there. We could use to exploit a variety of different input data, not only web feature services as we had in the past, but also in theory, even we can connect the crowdsource or other content that's beyond national mapping cadastral authorities. But of course, our main target was having harvested Inspire data through services and Inspire data as a data. Because the consultation with the users today shows that despite Inspire has been moved to the implementation and is implemented in many countries, users demand data to be used. So if users demand this, we should respond to users' demand. So this within this architecture, actually we have a harvesting point where we extract and transform the data to the demanded format, and we can store some data in the centralized database in order to have a good performance of the services. Because the performance of the service from the centralized storage, even using the same cascaded architecture that we used in the current model, works much faster than we have been using so far. And of course, the connection point for user, according to this technical infrastructure, has been widened by the not only WFS2 but also WFS3 plus file download as geo package in different formats, as well as keeping the web map service and metadata available for user through the available channels as we have now. So, and the delivery of this has been considered both straight to user through the infrastructure and also via the European data portal, where we have a requirement currently working on ELS to make data accessible through the European data portal. So just on the type of the activities, I see the time is flying, so I will not stop there, but we made this, the experts made this modeling of XML schemas, and the extract, transform, download process has been implemented with the address data. So the publishing of the content through the web feature services with the alternative encoding, as you see, including JSON and GML and GeoJSON and others, has been tested, and it seems to be operational. Of course, there are some issues and there are some challenges in setting up such technical infrastructure. So those are mainly prospects. But we then come up with where we like to move on with the ELS, and in particular Open ELS. And currently we have been setting up how the Open ELS, which is the open services that we have in European location services, would be handled in the future. So we took the first 6 themes of the web feature services that are currently provided on the distributed architecture, and we still consider that some of the data providers might not allow us to use data in the centralized storage, because this was from some data providers, those requirements have been popped up already in 2013. So we still keep in mind that we might need to support the distributed cascaded, which is running today. But the web feature service as cascading 2 is the current service we have in ELS. We support the web mapping service and WMTS offering the topo base map, and we support the centralized management of geolocator by importing data to the centralized infrastructure. But what is different now in this? In this chart is those yellow parts. So the yellow parts are the new one that we like to deal with in the future. So first of all, accommodating also files like the atom feeds. We can try to harvest atom feeds from data providers. We can store the data centrally. And by storing the data, we like to also apply the quality checks and efforts in cross-border harmonization, in the edge matching efforts. Then we would come up not changing national data, but changing the data in the central repository for the better appreciation for users. We can assure the harmonized content of the data through services of ELS. Because this was, of course, considered by mapping authorities as important task to do, but actually in the national objectives, they have never been driven by the demand of edge match data with the neighboring countries. This is purely European demand to have this edge match data with the neighboring countries. And unfortunately, we have still many data providers that are not in the position today adjust their national data straight to the connecting points with the neighboring data. So in this case, we intend to maintain to offer services through the web feature service and geo package. So it means delivering the data to users that need the data. And also we like to simplify the current security settings and apply such kind of the basic HTTP authentication through the password protected facilities in the central infrastructure, moving to the one from Quantera software to some other solutions. So as in conclusion, this prototyping and the work which has been done so far has been very useful, and we tested the concept. The concept seems to be working. And there are a number of advantages changing the infrastructure. So as I said, we would be able to operate with this central storage. We would be able to assure the better performance of the services and better configure the service as European services, as well as offering more products to users. Of course, this will take time and efforts implementing the infrastructure, and we are sure that we cannot do this very fast. So the soonest results that might be implemented would be the next year or end of next year. And as well, we need to deal with the cost of these enhanced technical capacities, both for software, hardware, and machines to be employed, as well as the storage on the cloud that needed for the central database. But this solution that also had been considered managing with the update cycle of the national data, like with the change detection of data and the maintenance process of offering products, actually not necessarily on the service from mapping authorities, but offering products and maintaining the pan-European products life cycle. Sorry for taking time, and yeah, I'm almost finished.
We take one question and then.
In fact, I have one remark and one question. The remark is I would like to thank you for what you presented, and especially your presentation stressed a lot this need for a central approach now to manage Inspire. As I presented yesterday morning, most of the usability issues we are encountering for Inspire data can be solved only at a central level. So you mentioned edge matching, and mentioned also yesterday generalization, gap filling as well. We have to identify where there is a gap in the data for the pan-European coverage, and it has to be done at the central level. And also for incremental updates and continuous updates, the central level is the most pertinent level to improve that. So thanks a lot for the efforts. But I have a more pragmatic question. So you described this prototype you developed during the hackathon for addresses. Could you make available for us as potential users the endpoint to access this prototype data? That would be useful.
Yeah, of course. This was the purpose of the hackathon was a bit different. Not really making product ready. So the objective was to test the concept. So and during this testing, we proved the concept, but we have a certain challenges to address. So I would say that we're not yet ready as a result of hackathon with the product. So but we will try to prototype now. So with some small set of the data, how the centralized infrastructure would work, and I certainly, as soon as we'll have the solution to test, so we certainly will be contacting both partners, EuroSDR and the Environment Agency, demonstrating how it looks like. So as today, yeah, I was very pleased with your presentation yesterday, because it was just confirmed that the decentralized efforts are really needed in order Inspire to be successful. Today we have a certain complexity in getting data, both licensing terms and technical terms with the mapping cadastral authorities, not because they do not want to collaborate, but because national setups are different from the setup in the other country. And for changing national setup, that is the big thing to do. And you cannot just like that change the national infrastructure. So that's what we come up with, a pragmatic solution, that it's easy to invest resource centrally for making the transition from whatever data comes from national point, that it would be transformed in the way that the user would be satisfied with the content. So that's why we put those efforts to the central infrastructure. But yeah, of course, by doing this, we need to solve first technical challenge, but also organizational challenge, because we need experts in the central activities, and we need the infrastructure that would be run centrally. So and we need again the novelty in place. So because this is pretty, if we do the investment from mapping authorities, and so far ELS is the only investment from mapping authorities, with some support from projects from European Commission. So we need to be clear that this is the solution wise to be implemented, and will get good benefits for society.
Yeah, just a quick question. Thanks for the presentation. I have to say that we are following the development of OpenELS with great interest. And I can see also that now you have a very nice prototype in place. But my question is simply, so what kind of support do you get from the national mapping agencies? Because at the end, I mean, you need access to the data.
Yeah, I think that in general we can say that the support is there. So we have members organizations. So I wouldn't dare to say that we have any member which doesn't like to be collaborated within EuroGeographics. So I think the collaboration efforts are here, but because those are the public authorities, they are dependent on the legislative system of the national governments. And of course they are part of the big game. So with the all best endeavors and efforts from mapping authorities, they confess that actually their capacity should be measured according to what they could do nationally. So and as well, you know, when you need to prove that the big change need to be done, they also like to have a, you know, proof from European Commission that is needed, or proof of let's say legal instruments like INSPA implementing rules. They're questioning if this is your exercise or if this is, you know, pan-European exercise. Plus, you should keep in mind that not all of our members are EU members. We are also some members that are not driven by EU legislations, and INSPIRE for them is just you know, nice to have, not must have. So I think it's again chicken and egg problem. So if, for example, we had a good discussion yesterday about this, if the big player like European Commission, like World Bank or any other big player says that yes, this is the solution we like to do, but you need to change this and this, and we'll use this for real purpose, for real business, for real actions. I think it's completely different than response from data providers. I'm pretty sure that then the director of mapping authority go to minister or prime minister and say, sorry, but you know, Europe calls me, so and I cannot do because certain things. So, but today we have a pretty good collaboration on technical expertise. We have Inspire Ken, we have many others. Yeah, but we have a you know, maybe a bit more proof that this is the way we like to go.